Hi, how are you doing? This is Pastor Cheryl. I have been busy moving, packing, lots of packing. It seems that I've inherited a couple of China sets, and yes, I do use them. I entertain people on Sunday, and I do use them. So most people say, "Why don't you just get rid of them?" Well, I use them. So how am I going to use them if they're down at the Salvation Army? Okay. We are here in the book Matthew, Mark, and Luke. We're doing the Synoptic Gospels. Okay. And Matthew 10, Mark 3, Luke 6, the call of the 12. I wanted you to see this. Okay. Matthew. No, wait a minute. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Where one doesn't have it, the other one does. And so I will start reading, and when I hit the blank spot, I'll move on over, okay? And go down, and then I'll move over here again. And that way you'll get the whole story. You want the whole story. And so anyway, Luke 6:12 through 16, I will write this down for you. It'll be in the description. In these days that he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples and chose from the 12, whom he named apostles. And we'll slide on over to Mark. And he appointed 12 to be with him and to send out to preach, as have authority to cast out demons. Simon, who he surnamed Peter, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, whom he surnamed Boanerges, that is, son of thunder. He called these guys son of thunder. Andrew, Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, and James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot. Then we've got another gap here, so we'll slide on over. Judas, the son of James, Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. And the other two scriptures said, who betrayed him. First of all, I wanted to mention that they don't have mountains in Israel. They have these naturally forming hills, and it's something about the geological structure of the place. I forgot what they call these hills. They're just kind of bubbles, bloop, and then you got a hill. So anyway, they went up to the top of one of those rounded hills and was praying, and then he appointed who he was going to send out. In another scripture, he sent out 70 instead of just 12. Excuse me here. In his dry throat. I have been busy packing and then dealing with this office. They'll be my new landlords. These people are so rude. They made a mathematical error, and they wanted me to sign a lease with the mathematical error. The rent was $750 without utilities included, but with the utilities included, it's $850, and that's how Section 8 wanted it. They wanted the utilities included, but to be under $900. So Section 8 got that, made an error, a mistake, and had it $850 without utilities included. And they gave me a real bargain price, but I'm worried about in the future I might not be able to pay utilities, because these utilities go up and up and up and up and up, And that's scary. I remember years ago having a house where I lived in the lower duplex and someone was upstairs. Excuse me here. I wasn't able to take care of the utilities and had to go to a government office It was called Project Now, or no, Iowa East Central Train. That was the name of it. And have the bill taken care of, the winter bill taken care of for me. It was $200, my utilities. Don't know why it was so darn high. It was a mystery. But I didn't want to run into that again. Of, scraping and scraping to get by. I live on Social Security. I don't need that kind of stress. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to have to call and talk to their leader, who they're afraid of. Some guy named JC. Not Jesus Christ. No, he's quite the opposite. But I talked to JC and tell him about the mathematical error. The error. And I talked to the Section 8 office, and she said she was swamped. Have them fix it. Yeah. She was swamped. And I feel stressed just talking to them. I do. I feel stressed just talking to them. And had a headache today because I was talking to them. And I'm just trying to move around the corner. I try to get my internet switch from here to over there, asking questions about, do I have it turned off? Then you hook it up over there, or what do we do with this? And he can barely speak English. You know those people. We keep running into them. You call them up on the phone, and then you can't understand a word, and then they say things that don't make any sense. So I repeat them. I said, you said, and I'll repeat it. And then they say, oh, no, that's not what I said. And basically I have to turn it off here, go over there, and then they have to run a line to the house, from the telephone pole to the house. It's just a few feet. And I told him that. I says, you're going to have to run a new line. He didn't understand. Wow. Anyway, Jesus had assigned his people again, with his 12. And they had some very interesting names. And then when it gets to the traitor, Judas, sometimes your friends betray you. And you don't know why. And they come up with some weird reason of why they did that. And it doesn't make much sense. And we think, those of us who are theologians, we think that Judas betrayed Jesus so that Jesus could show who he really was with all of his power. That he would stand up for himself and show everybody who he was. Otherwise, he was kind of traveling around the countryside and telling people, shh, don't tell them who I am. Shh, don't tell them I did this. Yeah. I don't know why he was so afraid to let people know who he was. But, if you stood out back then, the Romans killed you. If just you stood out in the crowd. And so perhaps he was trying to prolong his ministry and just didn't want to create vibes. And the message that the words of kindness and love and caring and, equality and stuff that he taught was far more important than the miracles of a big display of power. Yeah. Little apple mug. Somewhere in storage I have a teapot with an apple on it and little apple mugs. And this is just one of them. And that's the problem. If you keep living out of a storage unit, you never find your stuff. You'll dig through, and you're like, where did I put that, You can't find it till you bring it all home. You gotta bring it home. And I've lived halfway out of a storage unit for years. Because these places that they give me to live in are real small. And they're too small. They're too small for me. So I have stuff in storage, and some things you don't want to put in an apartment. You don't want to put your rakes and hose and your lawnmower and whatever. You don't want to put that in an apartment. You can't. It's, the gasoline smell would just asphyxiate you. You just don't want to do that. So, you have to have at least a small storage unit if you rent. At least. If you maintain land or maintain property, yeah, for your tools. And I still have my signs, campaign signs for when I ran for alderman a few years ago. And I'll run again. Watch me. I'll run again. But anyway, this scripture, I will write down the addresses for you. Matthew 10, 1 through 4, Mark 3, 13 through 19, Luke 6, 12 through 16. And so that you could look them up. I think the names are very interesting because it has other names in there. And I'm like, wow, these names. So anyway, we will continue on tomorrow. And I will see you. Bye-bye.